Duckwrth, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Today we'll be starting off by painting, I guess, intuitively, because I think that really aligns with my type of process, and it would be really interesting to know how you will come about creating your own piece from kind of us talking and also you just painting along as we go.
Yeah.
I actually picked out some colors that you can see here. How do you think I did?
I think you did well.
Yeah?
I'm definitely in a blue place in my life.
I
right now.
noticed that recently you've been using a lot of blue here and there. Is there a reason for that?
With the album All American Fuckboy, you gotta. I tried to pick something from like the American colorway that resonated with me. I don't really resonate with red as much as I used to.
Yeah.
And white is just like bland.
Interesting. So when you were doing your other albums and whatnot, did you have a specific color in mind for them?
Every single album, yeah.
So what was your last color?
Black and chrome.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, I'm glad I picked blue for this one then, because it's
Yes.
on theme for today.
Very much so.
But you have your paintbrushes with you,
I have my paintbrush.
and you've got your water, and I guess that's all we really need.
Literally.
So I thought we could talk a bit more about your artist process. I understand that your main art form is music,
Yes.
but what is like the first layer when you're starting out a song? Whether it's like, for some people it's the beat, other people it's like the lyrics, some people it's the sound. What about it for you?
I think it's like conversation. Like the producers that I work with, we just kind of like shoot the shit for like an hour or so. Unless we are going in the studio with something in mind.
Yeah.
But I think when you don't particularly have a plan, you just have to like get on the same accord with who you're working with and stuff. So
A lot of the times do you go about with when you're starting a song without a plan or any attack or anything like that?
yeah. Unless it's like for an album. Like for this album, it was already themed.
Yeah.
Which still required a lot of conversation, but the conversation is just like a little bit more centered and focused versus sometimes it's just like, all right, what are we going to create today? Who knows? All right, well, how's your dating life been,
Right.
What restaurants have you been going to? Do you feel like a pure nihilist? You think anything matters type shit?
And so you were saying for All American Fuckboy that you already kind of had a theme in mind, but how did you actually kind of start with that?
I went through my whole phase of being a fuckboy.
Oh, do tell.
Yeah.
And is that phase still going, or is it?
I think
Is that a past life?
When you're a fuckboy, you're always like working. I mean, if you want to change,
Right.
you're always working your way out of it. It's never like the process is never perfect
Right.
of like quote unquote healing or like growing. So for me, I would say I'm a recovering fuckboy. Sound like I'm like a recovering addict, and it's like that means like the actions may not be there, but the thoughts can sometimes still be there. And like I have to check myself when those thoughts come about of like, okay, that's that same pattern, that toxic pattern that got you into this issue or that issue, or you ended up hurting somebody because of this. So like, yeah, let's not do that. Let's not entertain the thoughts,
Unpacking the experience of being a fuckboy.
Yeah.
Was that during the period of time where you were like realizing things about yourself?
I think I was like, I was understanding the pattern. Once again, I kept getting like being in trouble. And I feel like also people kind of look at me as just very positive, bright light, very charismatic human being or creator or whatever. And it's like, so they wouldn't expect me to be on something like that. And I was like, wow, that's very interesting how I pull the wool over people's eyes. And not saying I'm not charismatic or I'm not, kind, but I think also like I have human error and human flaw like anybody else. And you always like with social media, but especially with like artists and creatives, we kind of show our better sides online.
100%.
And I think it kind of creates this, false facade.
Yeah.
And I was like, which way can I really like open up and to my audience, to my listeners, and make something that actually matters instead of just, I don't know,
so with
surface level shit.
This album, do you think that you wanted to be a bit more vulnerable with that side of you? Because like, I actually feel like I resonate with that. In social media, as everyone knows, really shows you only one side, and it's very curated in that way.
Yeah.
And then I think as time goes by, you realize that you lack authenticity when you don't really show the vulnerable side of that.
Yes.
Do you feel like that's what you wanted to do with your music nowadays?
Yeah. I mean, as much as possible. Like, no one will ever know you via internet, you know.
Yeah.
But as vulnerable as I can get within my craft, and like, you know, as relatable as I can get with like even like the content that we create online.
Yeah.
I don't know, just showing something more of a human experience and not like algorithmic curated content to make me look
A
all
certain
pretty
way.
and shit.
Yeah.
You know?
I 100% get you. And I guess, like, honestly, for me, that's why I really wanted to talk with artists like you and get more into the mindset of the artist again. I think that's been, especially in media these days in modern times,
Yeah.
the artist itself has been kind of skewed more to, I guess, the front-facing view of it rather than the creation and the process behind it.
Yes. Very much so. I have my tips with the current climate of social media.
Is this something you'd want to share?
I don't want to sound like the old guy.
Do you think it's changed a lot since, I guess, the time when you were like kind of introduced to your relationship to social media and everything like that?
Yeah, definitely. Because I feel like, we can use Instagram for example. I think when we first started on Instagram,
Yeah.
it was just like posting what food you're eating. You know what I'm saying?
I know,
like
yeah.
you going to the beach, you went to a nice show. You know, like more life documentation, and now it's turned into, you know,
Life curation
and
Yeah.
advertisement. And like I'm one of the people who has done it, you know. But I feel like because of that, we just have such a pressure to perform and create content.
Well, yeah. Like, what's your relationship with that now? So, I want to be an artist and I want to be able to explore my passions in like creation and creativity and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I also know like social media is a tool and I want to be able to connect to my audience.
Of
What's
course.
your take on knowing your boundaries with social media and with your presentation and performing, but
Yeah.
also being like very authentic to your art form?
I think the biggest part of it is just that I use social media for a false sense of validation, because I was like still dealing with like insecurity issues that I've had since a little kid. So I was like, now that I do, you know, I've been doing music for some time, and I have fans and everything. When you post, you know, people celebrate you. They're just like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like this is so good, fire emoji sign. And it's like, or like DMs, like funny little silly DMs.
Yeah.
Flirting, whatever it may be. All of that, I was eating it because I just didn't have it in myself, you know. And then like it's toxic because when you don't get that validation, when people don't interact with your post or whatever
Yeah.
the way you want them to, now you feel like you have no purpose in life. Yeah, and I don't always want to perform. Like, you know, when I tour and perform, like I'm putting on, you know.
Yeah.
I don't want to put on in my everyday life. I want to be me. I want to be Jared, you know.
Do you prefer when people call you Jared?
I don't care because it's all titles.
Yeah.
But more so like just the regular me. I don't even call my own self Jared, funny enough. I have another name
Do you
for
think
myself.
when you're being an artist and everything like that, does being called Duckwrth or like I guess signaling Duckwrth make it into like an alter ego where you can separate yourself, your truth self from the art?
Well, yeah, you know, I think more so when I perform, that's when it's like more alter ego type shit. But
Right.
Duckwrth is like a family name, so it's always, I love that it stems from a family name, so it's never unfamiliar to me. I never feel like not myself
Yeah.
being Duckwrth because, you know, it's my mom's maiden name, and they used to call her Ducky back in the day.
Oh wait,
In high school, they used to call her Ducky.
I love
and they call
that.
me Ducky, and I'm like, oh, it's tight. So
I know that your main focus is in music and everything like that, but I also know that you had a background in design and art. Can you
Yes.
tell me a bit more about that?
I went to college in San Francisco, a place called Academy of Arts, and yeah, I learned graphic design and product design and stuff, and I was supposed to be doing graphic design.
Oh wait, so that was your original intention
Yeah.
at first?
Yes.
And did you always know that you wanted to do something in the creative field then?
Yeah, definitely. I've been illustrating since I was like a little kid, and I was supposed to go to school. I did go to school to support that, you know.
Yeah.
And I wanted to actually be a Disney animator at one time.
No
or another,
way.
Yes.
And why did that dream die out?
Because I saw how much I was getting paid.
Yeah,
I was like,
that's
nah,
what happens, isn't it?
I was like, damn, like, and then everything was going into, since Pixar, everything was going to 3D animation.
Yeah.
I wasn't as stoked about 3D animation as I was like illustration, you know. But the industry changed, which is so crazy because it's like every so couple of years, like the industry changes again and again and again, you know.
Yeah,
So,
and it's hard to keep up with that, especially.
very much so.
Yeah. But I noticed that you've also created some sort of a design called your Hornstar. I love that, by the way. It's so cool.
Thank you.
It's
I
so
appreciate
cool.
that.
How did you come up with that?
I wanted to like have a nod to classic rock, and I always forget the guy's name that's in Kiss, but he used to wear a star, and then Ziggy Stardust, he would wear his lightning bolt.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of classic rock. Crazy to say. I don't know. It's just it was such an interesting time in music. You know, they were so belligerent and so unhinged, but like the creativity levels were like insane. But I just like the glam of costume and like the moments where you can present character.
Yeah.
But then also like the LA punk scene, it was like integral and like picking black, because I started off painting white on my face and I looked like a clown. So I was like, this ain't it. But then I would start going to punk shows in like East LA, and it's just like everybody was like using black, and I was like, oh shit, this is so much better.
Yeah.
So then I tried black and it worked. So it's kind of like a nod to like the LA goth punk scene and shit.
How's your painting going?
It's good. I'm just
Yeah?
painting like the background color and shape.
Oh, cool.
Before I do,
I
like,
kind of like
outline.
started right into my composition, so this should be interesting. Yeah.
I'm interested to see yours.
Creative blocks.
Uh-huh.
Now, I know all artists get them in all forms, but I'm curious how you would get that as a musician.
I think it's when I don't live life enough. If I don't live life
Interesting.
enough, I have nothing to talk about. So I think sometimes my creative blocks would be like, bro, get out the studio. Like, go live some damn life, you know? Or I just like, for my album Super Good, I wrote that album in 1 month and wrote and recorded it in 1 month.
1 month. Wow,
month.
that's insane.
So because
Yeah.
I channeled so much in that short time span, and the world was shutting down because of COVID.
I
but
see.
because I wrote so much, I had writer's block. And I don't know what the science is, but like you can max out if you channel too much, and that's literally what happened. I had writer's block for the rest of that year until like November.
I actually had like a completely different experience of it, where it's almost because I'm not stimulated enough, and then I'm like, I think I need to have like some sort of experiences with different, like I think if everything kind of stays constant and the same, it doesn't leave any room for creativity sometimes.
Yes.
And in that way, it kind of creates this blockage of ideas and everything like that.
Yeah.
And how do you find you can overcome it then? What's your practice?
I just stopped creating.
Fair. I love that,
Yeah,
having a boundary.
I literally just stopped and like prioritize other things. Prioritize like hanging out with friends, or like, I don't know, research, or just being curious, going to nature.
Fair.
Which I do usually, but it's like at those times it's my soul, or once again the thing that's responsible for the download,
Yeah.
it's telling me to stop. So
And I guess
yeah.
like in reverse then, when you do have an idea and everything like that, is there an urge to like write it down or quickly
Yeah.
create something, or is it something that you digest and take time with?
I try to like put in my notes,
Yeah.
and then if it's something that's like dire, like I need to get this out now, I hit up the homies and like, hey, you got time?
Yeah.
Can I pull up? But if it's something that I can like, all right, cool, as long as I put in my notes and I get to it eventually, I'll just put my notes. But sometimes it is that, like, it's just like, damn, I need to put this idea down immediately.
I do notice too sometimes, like when I do have an idea, that if I don't catch onto it quickly enough, that it will no longer be mine anymore. And it just like, you're not interested anymore.
Literally.
It's like,
But I feel like the zeitgeist is potent right now in time, which it usually is because, you know, such as life and society and trends and everything like that. But I think it's so potent now because we're all seeing the same shit. We're being advertised the same shit on social media, that it's like that genius, what we call it, if you don't put it down and catch it and produce it, yeah, it's just gonna move to somebody else.
as artists, we should really embrace the idea that there is no original thought, but that's not a bad thing. You don't always have to be different in any sort of way, but it's rather taking what idea you have and making it your own.
Like true innovation is hard.
But like going on about what you were saying about kind of creating our personalities and kind of performing, I understand that you also had a movement coach that helped you kind of move more freely with your music and when you were kind of performing in that way. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
So I just wasn't really in my body the way I wanted to be. I don't know, mind you, like, being a performer and shit, you think I would be like really connected to it, but like I would, find walls within myself, probably emotionally.
Yeah.
I could be a bit emotionally stiff sometimes. It's the ways of a Taurus. So I just needed somebody who would like kind of break those walls within me and be like, yeah, like try these movements that are a bit more femme,
Yeah.
and a bit more uncomfortable to your usual, but like that's where the greatness lies, because literally even like my predecessors, music-wise or performance-wise, it's like Prince or Mick Jagger or like Freddie Mercury were connected to their feminine, and that's what
100%.
made them extraordinary performers,
Do you think like from when you were starting out with music and everything like that, you knew you wanted to be a performer, or was it purely music at first and then you kind of were led into the scene of being someone who had to perform in front of other people?
I remember the first rap song I ever made and shit, and the feeling itself was like insane. And then I was like, well, I've made a fun song, I should perform it. And then, this is all in college, and then I performed at this thing called The Egg, which was like our student auditorium or whatever. Not even auditorium, that shit was so small. But I performed in front of like 15 kids or college students, and I performed that song that I recorded. Insane.
Really?
Most insane feeling.
Really?
And
Do
I was
you
like, I
feel
want more
truly
of that.
connected to yourself then?
Yeah, very much so. But more so connected to everyone else. I was like in service,
Wait, that's so interesting.
Yeah, it was trippy.
That's really trippy because I feel like I have a really opposite relationship where I'm not used to, I guess, performing or being perceived in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then so in that way, I almost by default kind of go into this facade, right? And then,
Yeah.
but how do you think you felt truly, I guess, authentic in those moments when you were performing? Especially like, I guess was it college?
Yeah, it's college.
Yeah.
Depends on what you believe in. I don't know if there's such thing as destiny.
Mm-hmm.
I believe more in alignment now these days. Something just kind of, a puzzle piece just like landed in the right place. And I was like, oh, this feels right. This feels right. Maybe I should keep doing
This is where I am.
This is where I
Let's
am. Yeah,
keep
yeah.
on this road.
And it was like just a high that like, I don't know. It was very hard. It's very hard to explain, but it felt very pleasurable. It
Yeah.
felt very like I have a purpose in life,
So I know intuition's a really big deal for me because a lot of my work is abstract, and that means that I'm kind of non-thinking a lot of times.
Yeah.
But I'm curious what it means for you as a musician, where you're creating music and you're also performing, but how do you tap into your intuition? Do you tap into your intuition in those situations?
I mean, I feel like I do. How do you define intuition?
I think it feels like what is truly aligned to you. It's like when you know something fits with what you want
Yeah.
and what you see yourself going forward in life with.
Yeah.
I think in that way, that's intuition to me. But if I think of it in a more micro level, when I'm painting and everything like that, I kind of might suspend my need for perfection and judgment when I'm like creating a piece and everything like that.
Gotcha.
And then from there, I notice that I create something that feels so much more worthwhile and so much more right to me than if I were to plan something out and force that out of me.
So it's less critical thought, maybe even
a lack of thought in that sense.
Yes, I was
Yeah.
gonna say it's not much based in thought, but more so in feeling.
So like when you're creating a song,
Uh-huh.
do you think it starts off with all these ideas that you're thinking, or is it something that kind of clicks like when you're conversing with other people about it?
It could be a bit of both, cause like when you're like making songs, depends what type of writer you are. Like for me, I write more classically, like
What does that
verse, chorus, verse,
Right.
chorus, bridge, chorus. I write pop records. I may not sound like a pop artist, but I write pop records.
mean? Right.
I like that people can digest my music, can sing my music back, can like integrate my music into your daily life. You
Yeah.
know? So, and like a lot of people that like, I love Stevie Wonder. I love Michael Jackson. I love all these different people, and like they all made pop music. And I guess that's just in me. But to get there, that's intuition. That's intuitive.
Right.
Because
Interesting.
I'm not particularly, like I go in there and I just like think of melody before anything else, or rhythm. So it's like, say for instance, any record that has like a cadence of like like that's cadence, you know.
Right.
But it's like sometimes I think it's more interesting to find that rhythm before you find the words, especially because people don't listen to words as much these days. I think a lot of people just feel music first, then then they listen to words,
and then they resonate with the words, and then I think they almost build a deeper relationship by I guess listening to it more deeply.
So like my intuition will find rhythm before words a lot of times. Like I just like, it's how the beat makes me feel. The beat makes me want to like double time, or if the beat makes me just want to find a melody or something. So like it was all about your words. So you would spend about like 30 minutes figuring out like the coolest bars and stuff, to impress your listeners or impress, the homies in the studio. I mean, but hip hop is coming back though, with people like Doechii and like Kendrick winning for like a rap song, like rap is on, and then like West Side Gun and all them. I think that hip hop or rap is coming back. Words are coming back. I
guess in that way, what do you think is something that someone else has created that you kind of wish was your own and that you really resonated with, and you're like, damn, that was something I wish I made?
That's a couple things I could think of.
Do tell.
Well, I guess this is more of a future thing.
Yeah.
Not that I want to mention Ye right now, but he's working on this album called Bully, and like I was working on this like psych record.
Yeah.
Like psych electronic grunge record called after All American Fuckboy, called Psycho Bully, and it's just like him using bully. Like now, when somebody big uses something, they have it. So it's like when you nod to it, not even nod to it, it could have been an original thought for you, but since somebody beat you to the market, now you will always live in their shadow. So, I mean, that's the first one I thought of. I'm sure there's a bunch more. I mean, also just there's certain people in the industry that we fish from the same pond a lot, and it's just like, you don't always have to be like I could beat them to the market, but they're pulling from the same place, and because they have like, just much more notoriety, now it's just like people are like, oh, you're copying them. It's just like, bitch, I mean, damn near like to create something original, you have to, I don't know, you have to leave society, you have to not be on the internet, you may have to just...
You almost have to be unliked, because if it's completely if it's completely original, it means things that people won't even conceive as being like approved by society.
Mm-hmm. I don't even know what that looks like. No. Completely original. It's like, do I have to go to another planet now to find something
exactly
original? I mean, but I think maybe that's not the...
Oh, we're now getting...
surprise color.
A surprise color?
I was hoping. Yes!
Sorry,
yeah.
I with this color.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess that's the question for me, is like, what does true originality look like? Like, I always say this to my friends, but like, what would it be like if you discovered a new color?
Dude, I think about that all the time.
What would that feel like,
Like, I think about those insects who can like have 4 cones, like 4 eye cones and everything like that, how they exist right now, like all these new colors exist right now, but we just visually cannot see them.
Yeah, literally. And we're so limited in our sight as humans, But
I feel like that's also kind of metaphoric for us as artists. We're almost limited by the tools and the mediums that we have, but in that way we kind of create out of that necessity. Like, say when we're imagining we didn't have access to another color and everything like that, we want to kind of understand colors even deeper, or we want to understand different sounds even deeper, and like try to, I guess, analyze it in a way that other people haven't.
Sorry, I was listening, but then my hands got really
Erica, are you good? Okay.
New color. I want to keep going in there.
Yeah, okay.
Because I had a thought.
Please. Okay, well, remember color. Just like, I guess, when we're creating ideas and it comes from our intuition and everything like that, how do you know when a piece of music or your songs are done?
They're never done. You just have to tell yourself to shut up. You can literally find It's like when you're chiseling away at a marble statue, and like you see the piece in your head, and you keep chiseling. Say for instance, the painting or the marble piece is done, you know.
Yeah.
But you don't stop yourself from saying it's done. If you keep chiseling away, it will be nothing left.
100%.
It will be nothing left. So it's like for music, if you keep like going at it because you always can find something to change, you're gonna get rid of the thing that makes it special, you know? Sometimes, you know, what makes a song special is the random noise. I have a song called June 1st.
Yeah.
Where one of the guys in the studio fell asleep in front of the piano. And like we have video of it. He's laying in front of the piano, like snoring.
Oh my God. And did that make it through?
And the snoring is in the record.
Wait, I love that.
It's literally
I
in
need
the
to
record.
listen to
Nobody
that.
would know unless you really like,
But
you can hear it, but it just sounds like a repeating like rhythm. but it's snoring.
I feel like it's one of those things like when I listen to artists talk about like the hidden things behind their music and whatnot, or even their paintings and stuff like that, where it was almost unintentional, but that makes it even better in that way. Literally.
And if not, it just creates a cool lore.
Yeah.
Even when like, I listened to a couple of Michael's, his like the breakdown of his songs, like we call them stems.
Yeah.
So like they broke down the stems of one of his songs, and with Michael, he was such like a rhythm person that when he's like recording, his foot is literally doing this.
Really?
So when you strip everything away, you just hear the acapella of his like vocal. You hear him like snapping.
And it's just like the constant.
Literally like you hear this.
It's almost like his signature.
But it adds to the rhythm of the song because it makes like it gives like a drum feeling.
Right.
It's the trippiest shit.
I want to touch on a bit more about, I guess, you personally. What do you think is something that you want to share more with your music that you haven't really been vocal about?
I think with this album, All American Folkboy, it's a lot that I've never shared. I've never spoken about the relationship with my father on a track before. As much as I do in this album. It's a song I have called Permanent Vacation, where I'm talking about how my father was a fuckboy.
Really?
And like my earliest memory of a relationship was my father cheating on my mom. And like how that really affected my perspective and like trust in general, but trust in myself, you know?
Yeah.
And like, yeah, he was always gone because he was just like out being a fucking thought and shit.
And did you know this quite instantly, or
No.
like it was kind of like catching on as you were getting older?
It was always him coming home late at night, 2, 3 in the morning, or like it'd be days where he wouldn't come home. And I was raised in a Christian family and stuff, so it's like he was like a musician and he was playing in the church and everything. So it's like to keep up those quote unquote unholy hours, it's just like, what are you doing, you know? And then I'm not gonna say the whole story, but pretty much I was used by universe, God, whatever you want to call, to discover that my dad was cheating. And then when my mom and dad argued that night, I figured out that that's what was happening.
Do you think like over time, in some ways, your relationship with yourself, I guess you've unpacked this idea that you don't want to repeat what your dad's doing, or you're almost like you don't want to be a mirror to that?
So funny enough, in the song Permanent Vacation, I draw a comparison of what he did and what I did when I was cheating in my past. And it's literally, and being like, damn, like, I'm just like him. I picked up those like not so attractive traits, you know? Now, I don't say this in the song, but the lesson here is that I don't have to be him, you know?
Yeah.
But I have to understand that like if I don't make effort, then I will be him. And I will repeat exactly what he did. Like, but I think your children are always a better version of you. No matter how you look at it, you know? They're always gonna take from your, well, good and bad traits. But it's like, it's kind of for them to pick up where you left off
100%.
and hopefully do better. You know, we always have that decision of like whether we go this way or that way in life. But like for me, it's like I choose not, even though I have those traits in my DNA from him, I don't have to be him at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess it's like breaking those patterns generationally too.
Yeah.
But do you think with Permanent Vacation, it was almost like a self-soothing therapy once you created that song?
Yeah, because it's literally one of the hardest records I've ever written my whole entire life.
Really? Well, I'm keen to listen to it, truly.
Yeah, it's really deep. I've had a couple people cry listening to it.
Is it a song that you're probably most proud of?
That's a good question. I don't know if I'm most proud of it. I think I'm most proud of the fact that me being a Taurus moon,
Yeah.
I was able to emote in such a way.
Right.
Because that song is like, I put my whole ass out.
It's probably like
My whole ass.
potentially one of the most vulnerable aspects of you that you could really let out to the world then.
Yeah. I have a couple friends who make music and they're like, I would never. It's not their business to know that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, and like, but everything works for everybody, you know. So
100%.
Not everything works for everybody. So I respect them for not wanting to. I think for me, at the level that I want, because music has its benefit for me, but like I feel like music is also like hopefully a selfless act in certain ways.
Yeah.
Because you're like providing a service for people. It's not like a service as if I'm like working like a government job or like working in a grocery store. I think that's a little bit more like service based, but I think by musicians putting out music it's for people to critique.
100%. Yeah.
You know, whether you can make a song like for pure flexing purposes, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But like for people who kind of put more into it, more of themselves into it,
Yeah.
now people can critique it.
Yeah, I think it's service in a different way. It's almost like you're accepting
Crazy.
that they're going to put their relationship onto it and it's going to become something of their own too,
Yeah.
and letting that be the situation. But I guess in those terms, what do you want your audience to feel when they're listening to your music? Like, even if it's different from your past albums, what about for All American Fuckboy?
It's kind of hard to say. I definitely want people to have conversation, you know, because some people may not relate to it, because some people, you know, may not be like on their fuckboy shit, or may not be in a whole phase, or may not. But I think sometimes it's also you've been on the other side. You've been on the side where somebody has been unfaithful, untruthful to you, you know. So and in that case, like the album could be maybe triggering or maybe jarring for certain people who went through that, you know. So I'm not sure what I would want people to feel. I know people are gonna love it and people are gonna hate it.
Inevitably,
You know,
with
but
all forms of
You
creation.
know, but like, what is good art if there is no response
Yeah.
emotionally? At least for me, that's always been my barometer of what good art is. If it makes me feel something, you know?
100%,
And I think that's
yeah.
what it was. For me as a musician, I felt like I wasn't making music that made people feel much of anything.
Yeah, and I
It was
guess
convenient.
like you could even say that for the critique of a lot of abstract modern art.
Yeah.
Where I love what you said about I think real art is like when you feel something, and I think there is a detachment to the new contemporary world of art where there is a lack of clear understanding what you're supposed to feel from when you see it.
Yeah.
And then it's so easy to scapegoat it and just say, it's supposed to make you feel something personal and that's just intrinsic to you. But in that way, I think it just detaches itself from you, and that in that it's not really personal anymore to the relationship you have with your art, you know?
Yeah.
But what about you for when you create a song? By the end of it, do you think you're so closely like attuned to it where it's almost so personal to you, or do you want to share it with the world and that makes it more
Depends.
meaningful to you?
There's so much music I haven't released.
Really?
That
I guess
I
that
will
makes
never
sense.
Release.
And is that more for you?
Yeah.
And so do you create those songs to re-listen to, or to just process things that you want to go through?
Because I feel like I am my biggest fan.
I love that.
So it's like, I love what I create. I create it to listen to it pretty much. And it's like, you know, certain things I won't release because maybe it's not the quality or the level that like the rest of my work is, you know? Or
Right.
maybe it just doesn't fit like a storyline, or, you know, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just not a good fucking song. You know?
As it happens.
But overall, I create to listen, yes. You know, and
I think that's really refreshing, because I do hear about a lot of artists, including myself sometimes, where they don't want to listen to their songs. They don't want to hear it. They almost just want to create it and then let let it speak for itself and then not be reminded of it. And I think there's like it's a really refreshing take to actually recognize that this is you and this is something that you want to go back to often.
Hell yeah. I mean, well, I know after a while, especially with the mixing process, when an album is done and released, I don't listen to it for a bit because it turned it from like being just like this free expression to like now I have to have critical thought because I have to listen to the drums and like, oh, this snare is too high, oh, this vocal is too like
and it becomes so analytical.
So I have to be analytical with it.
Yeah.
So it's like after you finish a painting and now you have to like listen. I mean, you have to look at the painting piece by piece and be like,
100%.
this green is too saturated. If you can like tone it down, you know, and it's like it kind of changes the form of the piece
and
a bit.
I think there's like a time and a place for it sometimes, but it's like when you're becoming too strategic with what you're creating, it loses its creative touch in that way.
Literally.
You know?
As I'm being strategic with the painting I'm making now. Do you have more blue, by the way?
What's a question about your own process that you haven't really found the answer to yet?
What's next?
What's next?
Maybe in this process, what would the live show look like?
Yeah.
For All American Fuckboy? I know that like it's the sound I wanted to create for a while, which I'm very happy about. So I know the performance is gonna be like insane, because it's more like it has alt rock elements in this album, and like that's my favorite type of performance for myself. So yeah, I guess I'm just more so curious about what the live show's gonna look like.
Oh.
I'm more curious about how the audience will take it. I'm more curious about how people will take the album in general, you know?
Do you have any idea of how you're picturing that to look like?
Glorious.
Glorious?
Glorious.
I love that.
Magnificent.
I'm excited.
Unhinged, unbound.
Your upcoming album isn't fully finished yet, but you're pretty close to it. Is there anything else that you can tell me about that?
Yeah, it's just waiting for features. Waiting for features. That's like the worst thing. It's trying to get a feature confirmed and having them send it, because artists are like aloof, man. Like we be everywhere, you know. And it's like such a blessing to have a type of job where we don't particularly have to be all the way there.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Other than that, just like getting shit mixed and done.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What are you most excited about sharing for the album?
The cinematography, we shot like really cool videos and visuals for it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've been focusing more on like, the cinematic experience because, you know, I want to like create quality work, usually, all the time.
Yeah.
But like, with visuals, you know, like, even like when we do the release parties or listening sessions, I try to do it in like movie theaters and show the visuals for it.
And get the full experience out of that.
Everything is 16 millimeter film. So like we're shooting it to be seen
100%.
in theaters or seen, you know.
Getting the full effect out of
exactly,
that.
getting the full
What
effect.
do you want to be learning this year in music, in life as a whole, I think?
I guess it's always for me constantly just being more emotive. I think because this album is so vulnerable for me, I'm gonna have to like let go of, I guess, my own securities.
Yeah.
Cause like my securities is built for like, I mean, such as human experience. My security is built for self-preservation.
Yeah.
So it's like for me to put myself out there in a vulnerable way, I feel like someone can take advantage of that. Or someone can flip the narrative and be like something that I intended to be something that's more positive or enlightening. Someone can like, you know, throw shade on it. And I'm writing about being a fuckboy. So it's like, that's already gonna be like ill, you know? But I think I'm just gonna have to let it all go.
Yeah.
Especially when I talk about it.
I hope that's something that you can really achieve, especially this year. I think when you release your music, it'll be something that's going to be so powerful for even everyone involved and all the people who are listening. Mm-hmm. I think it would be really meaningful. Also, when is your album coming out?
In April.
That's pretty soon.
If all goes well.
If all goes well, if we get those features.
Yeah, so we get those features in time. My manager is like, no, it's happening in April.
It's happening, you've got a deadline.
Yeah, I got a deadline.
And okay, are we ready to reveal our paintings? Shall we do our unveil?
Yes. Oh wow. Oh wow, that's cool.
Do you want to show it to the camera?
Which camera?
Oh wow. Dude, we had such different approaches to it.
We did.
I love that.
Yeah, mine's is trippy.
I love that.
Oh, is it like that? Okay, cool. Got it.
Oh, wrong way. Yay! Nice. Okay, now that'll be $10,000 billion.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. Well, thank you, Duck, so much for being here. It was
Thank
so
you for having me.
delightful. I loved talking to you about everything.
Yeah,
about
wonderful.
so much about art.
Yes.
And thank you to everyone else for listening in. I hope you enjoyed this and you took something out of it. And I'll see you next time.
Later.